All right, everyone. It looks like we are good to go for our webinar today. I'd like to thank everyone for attending our Spring 2012 Release Preview webinar. My name is Andrew Ryan. I'm the CEO of MemberSuite, and I'm going to be walking you through today some of the things we've been working on over the past few months. We're really excited to release this new version of the software, and really excited to tell you about it. Just a few things. We will be recording this webinar. We're going to make this available after the live presentation today. A lot of you have expressed the desire for coworkers who are otherwise engaged to see the webinar, so we're going to make that available for you. Some of the things we're going to go over today. We're going to really try and keep the time here. There's a lot in this release, so we're going to move appropriately. First, I want to talk about the little things, the things that we've added to the system that we want to highlight because we think they're going to make your life, your day-to-day life, a little easier. And a lot of that comes from your feedback and the things you've asked us about, the things you've said, hey, this annoys us. So we're really happy that we can make these little tweaks, make your lives easier. Then we'd like to talk about the new modules. These are the big pieces of functionality we've added to the product. We're going to highlight documents, forms, and prospects, and also talk a little bit about volunteers and fundraising if we have the time. And then we want to talk about the new features. So these aren't new modules, but these are things we've added to existing modules based on your requests, the things that you said that you wanted to see in the product and you have asked for. So we're going to go through those. Then we're going to talk about the release assessment, so how we're going to handle training and preparing you for the new release and allowing you to know what functionality you can take advantage of right away. And then we'll do a Q&A. Okay, so before we get started, just a little disclaimer. So the current status of the release is in quality assurance, so it's in testing right now. During this process, we make sure that the new features work properly, and we also make sure that nothing that worked before didn't break. This is regression testing. So that's just something to keep in mind, and as a result, all the statements that we're going to make today are forward-looking. So we're anticipating that everything we show will be ready. The high likelihood, the overwhelming likelihood is that everything we show will be ready, but any functionality is subject to change. For instance, should we come upon a security issue during testing or a big functionality issue that we don't want to hold the release up for, we could withhold some of the functionality from the release, though that's not really likely. We just kind of need to make sure that that's something that everybody understands is possible. Okay, so jumping right into some of the what we call the little things, we really wanted to figure out how to make the day-to-day interaction with MemberSuite even easier than it is now. And so we looked to the user interface and thought about how we could improve it. And one of the first places it made sense to start was the 360 screen. This is where you all spend all of your time. It's what you're looking at 60 to 70% of the time. So how can we make this more usable, particularly the individual and organization 360s where there's a lot of information to display at once. It can be quickly overwhelming. So right off the bat, we looked at our one-clicks, and we realized that there was a lot of these little one-clicks at the bottom of the screen, and very often there wasn't a lot of information, and it could just be overwhelming. And so we have taken the one-clicks that actually have records in them and brought them to the top of the list, and taken the other one-clicks that are empty and grayed them out and brought them to the bottom, so that when you pulled up a record, the information tied to that record that's available is shown to you right away. You don't have to scroll down for it or search for it. We also added a link on the one-click section at the bottom of the screen so that when you're looking at activities, you can log an activity. If you're looking at orders, you can create an order. So you have the ability then to contextually do things as opposed to having to scroll through a bunch of links at the top panel. So just little things, little tweaks we've made to the 360 screen. We've also made it a lot easier for organizations to drill down when you're looking at an organization to see all the contacts, all the transactions of the contacts, all the activities of the contacts, and so forth. We also improved the find, which a lot of our customers use a lot, and it's used to very quickly look up records. And the biggest improvement we made was adding ranges. So if you've got a date or a number like an ID or a total, you often want to look up a range, not just a specific value. And that was a really big piece of feedback that we got, and we heard a lot from our customers. So we made that improvement. So I'd like to start off and kind of kick off our new module discussions with the Documents module. This is by and far the most requested module we have had to date by our customers, by prospects, and by everyone. And what you, our customers, told us was, look, we don't mind using a Dropbox or a box for our staff, but we want our committees, our chapters, our sections, our regions, we want them to have their own area in the portal where they can upload documents and share them with each other. We also want digital products. We want to be able to sell or provide access to documents to certain people based on membership, based on whether or not they purchase a product and so forth. And so we heard that loud and clear, and we implemented the Documents module. So this is one of the new modules you're going to see when the release goes live. And the Documents module, the biggest concept is the idea of a file cabinet. Okay, so an association can have one file cabinet. A committee can have a file cabinet. Each chapter, each section, each region can have a file cabinet. Okay, inside the file cabinets, it's the familiar folder and file paradigm. You've got multiple folders. Okay, you can within a folder add another folder. So we've got nesting. We've got the idea of private and public folders. So private folders can only be accessed if you are logged in. Public folders can be accessed if somebody has a link to the file in the folder. And that's really good for if you want to, say, make attachments available. Many of you have asked repeatedly for the ability to add attachments to emails. And we've said, well, the problems with that is that you're sending out these big emails now, which has performance implications, but also a lot of spam filters will block large emails that are going out in mass. If the Yahoo gateway realizes we just sent out 10,000 emails that are 2 megabytes in size, they're going to start to block some of that incoming traffic. So we've not made that available. Well, now you have the ability to create a folder that's a public folder and add your attachment into the folder, and then you can link the attachment to the email. And so now you can get all the benefits of click-through tracking, but also you send a relatively small email, and if you need to change the file on the fly after you sent the email, you have that flexibility as well. Okay. And once I'm in a folder, I can upload files to the folder. We actually have the ability to upload files en masse, so you can actually upload a zip file. So we've got a zip file here of all of the user stories for our release. Okay. And this lets me upload multiple files all at once. So if you've got repositories of files you really want to get up, you can do that now. Okay. The other feature we've got, now you can see that the files have been uploaded. You can edit the properties of the file. Okay, there's no link because it's a private folder, but you can edit keywords. You can move the file to other folders. So all the things you would expect in a Documents module. Okay. We also have a really nice feature. If I can just back up a second here. We'll just go into the folder. It's what we call full text search. So we actually have the ability to allow you to search through any folder and search not just the keywords and so forth, but actually search through the file. So and actually, I just made a mistake there. So we'll actually do this again. So I'm going to upload a file here called sample that just contains this word. And as you can see, I have the ability then to search through the file, in the file, and pull up the results. Now I can do this from within a folder, but we've also got this really neat capability now to do this globally. So the system can search all files, and it can search files that are in folders, and that also includes files that are also tied to people. So if a file is tied to a person or a lead or an opportunity, that will come up as well. So we've got the full text search to allow you to be able to pull up and search files across different file cabinets. So we've seen, association level file cabinets, but you can also set file cabinets at the committee level, at the section level, at the chapter level. Here I'm looking at this committee. I can say browse file cabinet, and this committee has its own folders and its own files. Okay. The difference is that because it's tied to a committee, I have this option to only let administrators modify the files. And so what's going to happen is your committees, you're going to have administrative members, which is a new concept in spring 2012, who can modify files and folders, whereas everybody else can view them. So they can create their own folder structures and set their permissions and have the ability to control who can upload files into the folder. To see how this looks, we're going to go pull up Jeff Malcolm, who actually is tied to this committee as an administrative member, and we are going to log into the portal as him. We've got to log in here. And if we go to the committee, you see he's got the ability now to view these committee documents. So he sees the same thing you saw. Because he's an administrator, he can upload files, he can create a new folder, he can do all of this in the portal because he's a member of the committee. Okay? This is, if he removed himself from the committee or somebody removed him, he would no longer have access to the committee. So in addition to being able to let people in the portal view committee documents, we can also allow people to view documents in the association file cabinet using entitlements. An entitlement is a new concept in spring 2012, and it basically is the idea of giving people in the portal the right to do something. It's a permissions model, and it's how we now use and allocate permissions for job postings and resume access. We've got the ability to let users view reports in the portal, which we'll show later on in the demo, and we've also got file folders and file cabinet access in the portal. There's also an extensibility component. You can create your own entitlement types. And built into the entitlement model is the idea of giving somebody a particular quantity of a right, which is relevant for things like job postings. You want to give somebody 2 job postings or 3. And expiration rules. So a right should begin or end at a particular date or time. So a lot of that plumbing is already built into the system and allows programmers who are tying into MemberSuite to not have to rewrite all that logic for the purposes of giving somebody the right to access, say, some custom portion of the website. If I say inside entitlement here, select a file folder, and we can select any file cabinet in the system. Usually you're going to want to select the association file cabinet, but you could give somebody the right to view, a committee file cabinet, for instance. And then I can select the folder. Okay, and I think I put it in, let's see, digital products. And let's say I only want to give them this entitlement to the 4th. Now, when he logs into the portal, he now sees this My Digital Library link. And when he clicks it, he can see all of the folders he has access to. In this case, he's got access until the 4th. Okay? And then he can actually browse the files. He can't ever upload files into it, but he can actually browse the files in the folder and download them and so forth. Okay? Where this gets really nice is the ability now to tie entitlements to products. So I can take a product and I can link an entitlement to the product so that when somebody purchases the product, in this case, if somebody buys this convention t-shirt, they get access to a particular file folder, say for 35 days. And then when they order it, they get that entitlement. So the documents module, by use of entitlement, also enables for digital products, which is something a lot of you have asked for. It's something that we're happy to be able to provide. Now, I'm going to pause here just a little bit to see if there are any questions You all can ask questions from within your webinar interface, and they'll pop up right here on my screen here. Okay, so we've seen how the document looks like for the member user. So the question is, can members edit files within the committee folder? And the answer is yes, they can if they're authorized. So they will never be able to edit files here because this is an association folder. But if I go to the committee, I can upload files to the folder. Okay, I can change the description. I can add new folders because I have the permission. Okay, so the next question is, do we intend to give users the ability to search documents if they are not authorized to upload? That's going to be up to you. They generally speaking, they can search documents, they can view through documents as long as they have the ability to access it. So the thinking is you're not going to post a document unless somebody should be able to actually view it and therefore should be able to search through it. So if you wanted to disable that, that would be something we would have to do via customization. So I'm just skipping through some of the questions that we've answered now. So with regards to the entitlement information, entitlement means that it is in a folder that belongs to the committee. So the entitlement means you're going to use an entitlement. You usually will not use the entitlement to give somebody access to a committee folder. Committee folders, if you have 100 committees, you're going to have 100 committee file cabinets, and it's designed for the committees to manage their own folders and their own access. You're going to want to give entitlements when you have a folder in the association that you want people to access for some reason that contains some information that you want to publish. Okay, so it's not, though you can give somebody an entitlement to a committee folder, you're usually going to give it into the HR. Okay, next question is, will uploaded resumes now go into a cabinet folder? This is a good question. The existing functionality of files has not been modified. So now you'll see we have this ability to add files and attachments directly to a record. Okay, so I can actually go and I can upload that same file we had here, and I can actually upload it and attach it directly to Jeff's account. That did not exist before you had to do that via a custom object. Okay, now when I actually go in and I search, and I believe this was the search word we had in there, I can see that the document is 2 places and one of them is tied to Jeff Malcolm. Okay, this file does not live in a file cabinet. It lives in sort of space attached to Jeff Malcolm. So there is the ability to have files and attachments to individuals, organizations, leads, and opportunities. We're going to get into that later, and not have them in a file cabinet at all. Okay, so the last question, and I'm going to have to move on, but if you still have questions, please feel free to email me or Joey or your support representative, and we can certainly answer them for you. But the last question is, if you wanted to have all current members have access to board minutes, would you do a mass update of records on entitlement? And that is correct. Okay, so what you would do if you had a folder that you wanted everybody to be able to access, we actually have the ability through any search to say, assign entitlements to selected records. So you can actually assign entitlements. Let's say, for instance, you wanted all members to have access to a folder. You would put that entitlement on the membership dues product, but you want the existing members to have it too. So you would go and you could do a mass entitlement. And this is actually designed to be able to do, to be able to handle thousands of records. So you don't have to worry about bringing the system down. Okay, moving on to the next module. The next module is the forms module. Now, this is something we're also pretty excited about, because there are a lot of times where you want to be able to collect information from your members, and you want to be able to do it in an automated way. And the only real way that you can do it now is by coming to us and having us do a customization on your portal. And when we had our internal meetings and we said, well, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck where can we help our customers out the most, our support team almost unanimously said forms. And the ability for you to create forms on the portal and you to define what fields are there and define how many times people can submit it. And so that's something that we made a priority for our Spring 2012 release. Now, you guys know that we already have the idea of custom objects. So we've already got this ability to create objects and essentially custom tables within MemberSuite. So let's take this custom object called chapter request. And we can see the object is created. We can see some fields here. We can add fields. Let's add a field here. Okay. Change how it's shown in the portal, make it required. So we already have all that ability, okay? And we already have the ability to do page layouts, okay? So in this case, this chapter request layout, we'll just we can drag these fields around and change how the screens and the forms are laid out. What was lacking was the ability to then push these layouts to the portal so that people could fill them out. That's what we have now here. And under setup, you see this option, portal forms. And now we can create forms, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and create a form, and that form is going to be called Initiate a Chapter Request. And the point of this is, I want people to be able to, ask to start a new chapter, and I want them to submit all the information that they used to have to submit via paper. I want them now to have to be able to do it all online through MemberSuite. So we'll create the form name here. I can define the dates it's shown if I want to. I can have a confirmation email sent out automatically. I can log an activity for it if I wanted to log an activity every time somebody filled out the form. I can set a maximum number of submissions. So if you should only be able to make one chapter request, I can indicate that here as well. Okay. Now I get to pick the page layout. Okay, I can choose different page layouts for creating, editing, and viewing, but I'll just leave these as a default. Okay, I have the ability to set permissions. So should somebody be able to review this after they submit it? Should they be able to see all their chapter requests? Yeah, probably. But I can also allow them to edit it. I can allow them to edit it and delete it. Depending on the kind of form, you're going to want to do that. Okay. Here I'll put the link that's displayed when they want to view their chapter requests, and I'll put the fields that should be shown. So I have a lot of control over how this form looks and how members interact with it. Okay, I have instructions at every step of the form. So when you're submitting it on the confirmation screen, after you've submitted it, when you're managing it, when you're viewing it, when you're editing, I can actually show all of these different instructions. So here I'll put. Okay, I can CC myself on the confirmation emails if I want to get an email every time somebody submits the form, or I can just run a search and have that search automatically delivered to me as per our search functionality to know who is submitting the forms and when. Now I can restrict this to members if I want. We've got this really cool feature called anonymous submissions, and what that means is without checking this box, this form can only be submitted by somebody with a user account. So if somebody tries to submit this form, they'll be taken through the user account creation process. If you click this box, then this form will not require a user account. And when somebody submits it, they'll then be taken to this URL that you specify here. That's a really nice way to just collect information on your website without forcing anybody to register. Maybe you want to do a quick poll, or maybe you want to get people to sign up for a newsletter. I mean, the possibilities are really kind of endless, but all that functionality is there for you. So I've saved this now. So if I go back here on the portal, now I've got this ability to initiate a chapter request. Okay. If I click it, I'll see that the fields that are shown here are the fields that are in the page layout. So let's say we want to create this chapter and fill this stuff out. Okay, here I'm confirmed. And the request. Now also remember that we had the text here. So this is the text that we had specified as our instruction. So you can change all the text on these forms. Okay. And now when I say manage my chapter request, because when we set the form up, I had the ability to view and edit it, I can see a list, I can view it, I can edit it, and so forth, because when we set the form up, we said that that was allowed. And when I go back to Jeffrey Malcolm's record here, here's my form that was submitted. So we have really kind of thorough forms capability here. Any questions on forms? Okay, so the first question is, could this new form option be used to allow people who are not logged into the website to provide comments to other non-logged in visitors like WordPress? So the way the forms work, everybody can only see their own form. So this is not like a news feed kind of functionality where you can post to it and other people can see the results. It's really designed to capture data in the form of custom objects. So that is not the way that it works. It's private by design. Next question is, will they always show up in the My Profile area of the portal? Good question. The answer is no. Depending on what modules you select, they will show up in a different place. Okay, so if I don't say CRM and I say membership and I go ahead and save this, then the form options now show up under membership. So the next question is, what happens to the data that is entered? Where does it go? How does the staff call the data? Excellent question. So the data goes into the objects that you created. So when I created the custom objects or the custom tables, I also specified how I should be able to access them. Okay, so let's just enable searching and enable quick search just for the sake of it. Okay, so let's see. Membership here. Okay, so now chapter request is this kind of first class kind of concept now. So now from here I can search on chapter request. I can quick search for chapter requests, and I've got all the features that come with our normal query tool. So you see here's chapter requests. I can search on all the fields. Okay, I can export this to Excel. I can search by date, so if I want to see all chapter requests that were created today, okay, I can do this. Okay, I can execute the search, and like any other search, I can create an automatic delivery schedule if I wanted to. I could say, email this search to these email addresses every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay, if there are any results. So you can get notified every time somebody does it. But it's stored in the system. It can be searched like anything else. Because this chapter request is tied to an individual, you can actually view it when you're looking at that individual. Now remember, you can tie a custom object to anything. And so that's how you would be able to pull it out of the system and be able to manage it. Okay, any last questions? All right. Okay, so the next piece of functionality is prospects module. So this is actually a fairly straightforward module. One of the things that you would really want to do, and the things that we've heard a lot, are this idea of prospects. So being able to track prospective donors, prospective members, prospective grantors, and any kind of potential record. And you very often don't want these potentials to be in your main database because they're not really clean. They may not have good data. You may have got them from a list somewhere. They may not even want to be in your system. You may only have partial information. And you don't really want to pollute your main database with these records. And there's been this request again and again to be able to track those kind of records as separate, and being able to track these opportunities and being able to convert leads to opportunities when necessary. And that's where the prospects module comes in. It's a fairly straightforward module. Anybody that's ever used Salesforce will recognize it immediately. Okay. In it, you have the ability to create a lead. Okay. Now you can assign leads to users. So any staff member that has a user account, you can assign the lead to them. Okay. You can change and configure these lead statuses. Now you'll note that there's really nothing required because it's designed for partial information, where you've got maybe only a little bit of information, or maybe you've got a bunch of information. Okay. Like any lead or like any record that's configurable, you can change the fields, you can change the layouts, and so forth. Okay. You can also convert a lead to an opportunity. So we'll find the lead here. Okay, we can convert it then to an opportunity. So conversion, very much like Salesforce, involves changing this from a lead, which is kind of the we don't know if this person or this organization is really a real lead, to a full-out account in the system. And that will create an organization and an opportunity, and optionally a task to be assigned to a staff member to do something at some period of time. And all of these are configurable. Okay. You can always go and you can create an opportunity and you can tie it to an organization or individual. And these are all configurable. I mean, we have these in the system by default, but you can change anything here, any of these drop downs, just by kind of just going to the prospect setup and changing lead types and statuses and opportunities types. So these are all configurable. Create a donor opportunity. Okay. Once you create the opportunity, again, you can assign it to a user, so you can track who owns it. You can assign, obviously you have to tie it and assign it to a record, okay, and give it a name and an amount. We've also got this idea of a stage. So each stage, you configure the stages and the probability. So maybe if it's closed won, then it's 100% probability of winning. If it's shortlisted, maybe it's 50%. And this is important from a sales funneling perspective, because you need to be able to track what your expected revenue is based on the probability of these leads and these opportunities, rather. Okay, so this is something, and the probabilities and the pipelines is all baked into the system now and is available for everybody to use. And just to answer a question, one of the great things about SaaS, and one of the reasons why we deliver MemberSuite over a software as a service platform, is just how rapidly we can innovate. I mean, when we release this, all of you will have access to it. You don't have to install anything. It's not going to break anything. Probably a little over half of you have had some customization done to your portal, or we built an application on top of the API. That will all continue to function. That really is sort of the promise of our delivery model. So the question is, well, what do we have to do to get this? And the answer is nothing. You're going to wake up and it will be available to you. And this kind of innovation is what we want to use to set MemberSuite apart from our competitors. The fact that we can give you functionality that you ask for this quickly. Any questions on the prospects module before we move on? All right. Okay, so next module, and this we're not going to spend that much time on, is the volunteers module. The volunteers module is actually a brand new module, and it's a brand new concept for a handful of our customers that really need this. And in it, you can create and manage volunteers. You can create and manage jobs and screenings. And a really good way to think about the problem this solves is to think about an organization that I'm becoming affiliated with called Angel Flight. So as a pilot, Angel Flight allows you to volunteer your time for people in rural areas who don't have access to modern medical facilities. So if I'm in a rural Georgia and I need dialysis, I might need to come to Atlanta, but it's 5 hours away. And so what Angel Flight does is ties pilots like me to people who need to be flown essentially from place to place for medical reasons, and allows them to essentially volunteer and do that. Now, if you look at the problem that we're solving, Angel Flight may have 1,000 pilots, okay? And those pilots all have different what are called traits. So we pull up this volunteer here, okay? They all have different traits. They may have different licenses, different ratings. They may be rated to fly different planes. They may have different locations. So you don't want to match somebody in Wisconsin up with somebody who needs something in Georgia. They have different availabilities. Some people may be available during the week or weekends. And so you have to be able to match all of these things. And some of the traits are required and some of them aren't, right? If the person needs to fly a multi-engine plane and I don't have a multi-engine rating, you can't match me up with that job. But if they want to fly on a velvet seat and I don't have a velvet seat, I'm still a match. I just may not score as well. So solving that problem, the idea of tracking and managing volunteer information, timesheets, jobs and assignments, being able to report on the value of hours worked and so forth, all of that is what the volunteers module does. Now, we're going to, just for the sake of time, move past this, but it's a brand new module that we really are really excited to unveil, and it's targeted primarily at the segment of the market that are nonprofits and really need volunteer management. Okay. Next module is the fundraising module. Okay, so the fundraising module is another module that I'm not going to spend that much time on, but we've essentially completely revamped the fundraising module. Okay, so really before it was a donation-taking module, and we let you do online donations, we let you tie donations to membership forms, and we still allow all of that. But we're now a much more robust fundraising and tracking module where we have the ability now to record different kinds of gifts, including pledges, matching gifts. We've got the idea of automatic soft credits. So if I am married, you may want to be able to pull me up or my wife up and see that we donated. So my wife gets soft credit via her relationship with me. All that's automated through our relationships now. Planned payments, which are payments that an estate gives through a trust or another retirement vehicle. Recurring payments. We've got all this capability now, as well as automating acknowledgments and receipts. And this is actually really important. It's not just mail merge, because there now are rules that can be automatically applied. You want to give a donor who gave you $10,000 a different acknowledgement than you give a donor who gave you 10. And so all of that now can be done within the system. We've got support for rapid gift entry. So if you essentially want to, if you have a ton of checks that are sitting on your desk, and you want to really rapidly kind of enter all those checks in at once, we now have got that capability. We've got the ability to support appeals, tributes, which are essentially gifts made in memory of something or in honor of something, fundraising, expense tracking. It's actually a very, very, very kind of voluminous module, but it's really geared towards those of you who do fundraising and who don't just take donations, but really rely on fundraising for your organizations to run. We've also got this idea of premiums that can be tied to gifts. So if somebody gives you a $10,000 gift or more, you may want to give them a plaque or a certificate. This ties into our order and inventory module so that you can manage the fulfillment of all of that. Okay. There's just one question here I do want to answer on the 360 screen. The question was, how does the 360 screen work for volunteers? So if you've got a member who is a member and a volunteer, does she have two separate records? So the answer is no, they only have one record. So the volunteer record is tied to the individual. So if I go to the individual 360 here, this is the individual John registrant, and then under volunteers, here's where I get all of the summary information, and then I can view his volunteer record here. Okay, so we link it up for you. Now, you may or may not want to use, I should also say this, just because you have volunteers doesn't necessarily mean you want to use the volunteers module. If you just track a bunch of people who register as volunteers and you want to track their names, the volunteers module might be overkill. You might be fine just creating an individual type called volunteer and tracking it that way. It's really if you want to be able to track volunteers, availabilities, match them up with opportunities and jobs, and track timesheets and value. I mean, those kinds of activities are when you really want to get into the volunteers module. Any questions on fundraising before we move on? All right. Okay. One question is, by the way, on the prospects, I think I missed this. If you've got prospects set up as members, a lot of the, and we're going to get later into the how we are dealing with helping customers kind of really not migrate, but use all the functionality that we're offering. We're going to deal with that at the end of the presentation, but The question was, if you've got all your prospects set up as members, how do you move them? We can help you with that on a case-by-case basis, because some of the things that we are now making tried and true full features were things we worked around before with things like custom objects or individual types. So we can help you with that on a case-by-case basis, moving information along. For instance, some of you use custom objects to keep track of files tied to people. Now that's a formal kind of concept. So something we definitely want to, we definitely are going to address, and we'll talk about the process for that moving forward. So, outside of the new features, we've got over 70 new, outside of the new modules, we've got over 70 new features inside the existing modules that we're really, 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 really excited about. So the first feature is what we call web widgets. And this is, I think this is, we have some debate internally. I think this is actually probably the coolest thing in the release. Some of the staff here think the documents module is, but we're really excited about this because 80% of the integration requests we get for MemberSuite are, can I pull some data out of the system and display it on our website? And in order to do that, you have to access our API, which is not difficult, but requires programmers, requires additional folks. And so we thought, well, if we can essentially create the ability to drop a widget into your web page and pull data out automatically, then we could probably make 80% of these integration requests not require a single line of code. And that's essentially what we've done. So any search in the system now, so if I were to create a search, okay, and I'm going to just create this search, and I'm going to pull some fields out. Maybe we'll pull middle name here. Let's see if I've got any custom fields. Well, we'll just pull company. Okay, so I'm going to create a search here, and I'm going to save this search. It's a public search. Okay. Now that I've got this public saved search, I can create a widget that allows the results of this search to be shown on the web page. Now, I just happen to use individuals, but this works for any record in the system. You want a list of your top 10 most active volunteers? That works. You want a list of upcoming events or people who, sponsors? Anything you want, anything you can search on, you can make a widget. So I'm going to go to Web Widgets here. I'll actually just delete this and create it here. Create this widget. System will then ask, let me search from all the public searches. So this is the public search we just created. Okay, I'm going to save this widget. Okay, now I can say generate code. Okay, and this will actually generate code that I can put in my web page. So I'm actually going to try this. Just on my local PC here. So I'm going to take this, copy that code, make this here, copy this code, save it on here as my quick web page.html. Okay. Okay, so I can pull up this web page and I should be able to see the results of this search. I am not. Let's see. I've done this right. I should be able to see the results of this search right here on the web page. I don't know why I'm not, but essentially, if you put this on your website, you'll essentially be able to easily see the results of the search. Let's see, we did this a little earlier. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, so not only can I see the results of the search, I can actually change the styles of the search. So I can actually change how the search appears. So for instance, this is pulling real time from the database. I can actually style this up. And this is just HTML development. So maybe I want this second column to be red. Okay? Just by changing the style sheet, I can make that happen. So there's just a lot of capability for being able to customize the search and the results without having to actually know any API integration or having to know any code. Just by knowing HTML, you can empower your web developers to pull it out. And for those of you who are technical, you can actually pull this information out in what's called JSON, so JSON. So you can pull it out in a form that you can actually manipulate it programmatically. So you don't have to just use this table layout that we provided here. You actually have the ability to use to display it any way that you'd like. So it's a really exciting feature, and I think something that we're really going to, and I see what I did here. I actually had the wrong URL, but something that is really going to be important moving forward to be able to address a lot of your integration needs. So any questions here so far? Well, so a couple of questions. Conceivably, we could use this to display a list of who is registered for a conference. Absolutely. That's exactly the kind of thing that it's used for. And what you're seeing here, this is the quick web page, and you see the companies here, the middle name, all the stuff that we've added. But nothing stops you from going to an event. I don't know if we have, because this is our QA system, if we have any events here that are interesting. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go. So we've got some people here registered for the event. Nothing stops you from saying, you know, viewing this, taking this here, saving it. And this now is a public search. Hopefully I saved it as a public search. Like anything else. Oh, excellent. And now, as a result of it, if I click Generate Code, okay, I can now basically generate these results instead. So now here's a list of everybody who's registered for the conference. And now I can change the fonts and everything just like I like. I really want that first column to be blue, so I can change that just by manipulating style sheets here in HTML. This is a really nice feature and a really good way to pull data out. And obviously, you will put this in your web page, so it will look like your web page. It won't look like this white screen here. This is just for the purpose of demonstrating it. But you can format it whichever way you'd like. Okay, so the next question is, we save the text file as HTML. I think I had a typo in here. So yeah, it should have been an HTML file, so it could be viewed as a web. So now you can see that the conference registration list is something that's basically built into the system. Any list, any search can be pulled out. And yes, this list updates in real time. We have a caching mechanism so that the list is updated every 10 seconds essentially, so that if 10,000 people hit your website, you don't bring our system to its knees. But I think 10 seconds is the default, so that essentially it's near real time. If you make an update, 10 seconds later, everybody on your web page will be able to see it. So yeah, it is real time. And there's somebody asking about entitlements to the list. You know what? While I'm here, let's just go ahead and talk about that, even though you're jumping ahead. One of the entitlements you can create, we've seen in detail the idea of file folder entitlements and what that gives you in the portal. But you can also create an entitlement to a search. Okay, so I can create a save search entitlement, and I can say I want this person to be able to have access to all the registrants until the 3rd, 4 p.m. Okay, when I create a save search entitlement, and let's just, he's logged out here. If I have access to a save search, I get this link on the portal that's called My Reports. Okay, if I click it, I can see all the reports that I have access to. Okay, if I click on World Conference Registrants, which we just created, I can see the results and I can download it to Excel. This is a new feature. Now there was a question asked, so we jumped ahead, but this is a brand new feature in the spring 2012 release. A lot of you want to make certain real-time searches available to your members, maybe as a result of buying something, maybe as a result of having a particular membership status, and typically that's been a customization. Now it's built into the product. Okay, any questions on web widgets? All right, I just have a few quick polls for you guys. We've kind of gotten through the initial modules and we're starting to get to the features, but we're really interested in who would use the modules. So let's see. If you could just take a second and really quickly answer these questions. We'll just give you another 30 seconds here. All right. Excellent. Almost. It's like 86 of you will use this. And just two more questions here. All right. Also very popular. And last question here. Wow, okay, this is more than we thought. Excellent. All right. Okay. Thank you for answering. Let's go on to the next new feature. You know what? I actually said that we jumped ahead, but the report in the portal was actually the next thing we were going to talk about. So we've already handled that. The next new feature is really less of a feature and more of a revamp. So we've made it a lot easier to deal with financial transactions in posted batches. So historically, once you post a batch, you're very limited in terms of what you can do inside of that batch. So if an invoice is in a posted batch, we've already sent that information out to your financial system. So very often we don't really let you modify that. Now we've got the ability to, in a much easier way, make adjustments to invoices. So for instance, and this is an open batch, but let's just close this batch here. Okay. Well, now I can actually adjust an invoice that has been in a posted batch. And what the system will do is it will log an invoice adjustment that will essentially debit and credit the revenue and AR appropriately that will get posted in whatever the current batch is. I also have the ability to reapply payments. So if you have a credit card payment that has been made for, say, the wrong invoice, right now you have to cancel the payment and reissue it. And that's usually not a big deal, but credit cards is a big deal because you have to essentially refund that money back to the account or create a credit and then reapply the credit. Now you can actually reapply the money directly to a different invoice or credit without having to do anything to the payment itself. We've also got the ability for details updates. So being able to update non-financial things about, say, an invoice or payment, the notes, the memo, purchase order, those kinds of things, regardless of whether or not the invoice or payment or order is posted. So there's a lot of things around being able to better modify transactions that have already posted in a batch. Okay. We've also improved our order processing and inventory management. Okay, so as you know, we have the ability to track inventory of any product. Okay, the only thing you need to do that is when you're managing a product, or creating a product, just under shipping and inventory, say track inventory. Okay, and then you can create inventory and manage it and so forth. New in spring 2012 is the ability to track cost of goods sold. So if you are recording inventory, if you're selling a lot of products, to be GAAP compliant, you really want to be able to match the expenses incurred in ordering the product with the sale of the product. So if you bought 1,000 t-shirts at $10 each, you don't really record that as a $10,000 expense. You record that as a $10,000 transition from your cash account to an inventory account, which is an asset account on your books. Then when somebody buys the shirt or when you sell it, then you record the $10 expense against the $12, let's say you sold it for $12, against a $12 sale and as a direct cost, and you see a $2 revenue or $2 profit. Where that gets complicated and where we are proud to say we're the leader in SaaS AMSs in terms of our functionality is when you have multiple inventory receipts at different price points. So on the business level unit, we have the ability for you to calculate cost of goods sold in a number of different ways. And those of you who need this will be familiar with these different methods. And the system will automatically generate the appropriate debits and credits when you close out a fiscal period. We've also made fiscal periods a lot less mysterious. There's a lot more ability to view fiscal periods. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. You can now view a fiscal period. You can now see all the very easily see all the transactions in the period. Okay, in the year and then in the period. We'll just drill down into the period here. Okay, I can run reports from the period. So this is actually just a little thing that makes your life a lot easier. You can just see all the subledger entries for a period. Instead of having to go into reports and do it and specify the date, you can just do it right here from this period based on the date. So just little improvements here into the financials that we hope will make your life easier. And the last thing here is reorder notifications. So you can receive inventory, but when you go to a particular product, you now have the ability to be notified when the product level is such that you need to reorder that product. Okay, so if I go to the product here and I say reorder point, I can set a reorder point on the product. I can also set a reorder point on the warehouse. So there can be a default reorder point, and that's important, right? So you may have two quote-unquote warehouses. You may have one that is a real warehouse, and you may have another one that's just your closet that you use for shipping things that you have to ship a lot. And you may want different reorder points on those two different warehouses, so you can set it there. And you can also set it on the actual product warehouse combination. So you can actually go, see if I can find a actual inventory. So if I look at this baseball cap, I can set the actual reorder point right here. So for this warehouse and this product, I want to be notified if there are only five left. Okay, and the system will handle that and will automatically be able to compute that for you. And then when you update the quantity on order, it will make the appropriate adjustment. So you can always come here and you can look at a reorder report and see the items that need to be reordered. And like anything else, now you can just convert this to a search, add the columns you want, and create an automatic delivery. So you can choose who's notified and when and what fields and so forth. So an important new piece of functionality there. We also have cross-sell capability now. So when you are, this is also new to spring 2012, when I am looking at a record, I can do a cross-sell. So I can essentially say, when somebody buys this product, I want you to push this other product. Okay, so this knit scarf, now I'm in the portal, go to the online store here. We'll add this knit scarf to our cart and we'll check it out. And now the system is going to kind of gently tell you, hey, you might really be interested in buying this wool cap. And yeah, you know what? I actually would. I'd like 2 of those. And now you can continue on with your order as normal and make the order, change, or add anything, and so forth. So another really very requested feature that can help you with your product sales. Okay, so the question, will cross-sells work within the event registration? Yes, cross-sells work for any product. And event registration fees are products, so yes, they will. Yes, you will be able to update a memo on the order without canceling the order. So let's see if I can find an order here. Should be able to. This is something we've done all throughout spring 2012. You can now update details about the record without having to, the entire record. So I can say update order details, and I can update this information without having to actually do this. And the other thing I can do, and this is actually really important, I can update ship date information and tracking number. Okay, and that's why this is also really important, because now if I go to Lauren Anderson's record and I take a look at what she sees in the portal, just remember what order that was, order 1000, she can actually see that information. Let's see if I pull the right order, she can actually see that. Here we go. Nope, that's not the right one. She can actually see that ship date, that tracking number, and those notes now in the portal. So that's another kind of small thing we did in spring 2012. And we're only highlighting the ones that we think are really interesting, but there's a whole list of them that we're going to post in the portal. We're actually going to post the release notes in every single issue, and there's over 100 different issues will be listed, so you can see in particular bugs that were fixed and new features and small improvements. And we also have the ability to void an order, and that will actually go and remove an order from the system entirely. So if you made an order and it was accidentally done, now you can void it and essentially erase it, which will work if nothing's been posted, and if your accounting data can be not be corrupted by the action. So that is something that you can do. Okay, and yeah, you can do product downloads now. So you can basically do e-publications because we have a combination of the documents, modules, and the entitlements. And you are very welcome for the void of orders. Okay, just some more new features. There's a lot here. And invite-only events, another very requested piece of functionality. You can now indicate that an event is invite-only. And what that means is only people who have actually been invited to the event will actually be able to see it in the portal. Okay, you can then specify invitees just by adding an invitee here, or you can use the data loader to upload them en masse. Okay, and this is going to be just important in terms of basically making private events that only certain people should be able to go to. We've also now got the ability, we have been beaten into submission, to clone events. So you can make a copy of an event and copy over fees and emails and merchandise and so forth. So, and this is really well past due, a well overdue feature, but you now have the ability to create templates. So an event template that you just copy every time you have a new event, which is an important feature. We have open committees now, and we really glanced over this. You might have seen it. But we have the ability now to make a committee open. And if a committee is open, that means that anybody can join it. Okay, so anybody can join it, or they can remove themselves from the committee. Okay, when they join, an email can be sent out and so forth, letting them know welcome and so forth. But this is just a small thing that a lot of people have requested. We also have really made big changes to our discount and coupon codes. Another very, very, very popular request. We beefed it up. So in addition to making coupon codes work and tying them to certain products. So you can now say that a coupon code should only apply to certain kinds of products. You can also make them only apply to certain product categories, because remember, you have the ability to set product categories in setup. So you have the ability to define product categories and then assign, when you create a product, products to those categories. And that's how they show up on the online store, or just let you organize them any way you'd like. So you can restrict them to certain categories or certain types. You know, maybe the particular product should only work for merchandise, shouldn't work for anything else. Or both. I mean, you can use all kinds of combination of restriction. You can assign them only to certain customers. So if you want a code to only be used by one person or two people or one company, you can do this now. Okay, and you can set how many times they can use it. So maybe this code is only for Lauren Anderson. I only want her to use it. Okay, you can set a restriction on the code on how it's used. So you can say, you know what, I only want this code to be used 25 times, period. You know, this code is for a $5 discount. We only have $125 in our budget for this discount. So after 25, shut it down. You can set the maximum number of usages for a customer. So you can say, look, a customer should only be able to use this once. And then you can override that later on. So there's a lot of we beefed this up significantly and added some user interface stuff. So now you can actually see the usages here. So I can see that this code was used by this order. When I'm looking at the order, I can see what codes were used and what the discount amount was. Okay. Last feature we're going to cover is chapter postal code mapping. So a lot of you have asked for this, and we've had to customize for this. But we've got the ability now for you to automatically assign chapters based on the zip code of the individual. So you can do, you can either do it automatically or you can suggest it. And you can set up the different rules and different mappings. So you can, essentially set up the postal code range, start and end. We provide a reference here so you can see what each state has its own, range of zip codes. So you can reference that and you can do that. And then you can do a catch-all. So maybe an at-large chapter or something like that if none of the zip codes match. So that is now automatic and can be done in the portal and will affect everybody who registers for membership. Okay. Any questions on functionality? All right, we should have a quick poll here just to see, out of everything we worked for, what you liked the most. I should probably have an other, but it looks like we don't have an other, so if it's other, just select fundraising. And while we're doing this, there's a question about mass entitlements dynamically updating. So letting only registrants to an event see the registrants list. So yeah, the way you would do that is you would essentially grant the entitlement to that list and tie it to the product, to registration fee product. So anybody who bought the registration fee would then be able to see the list. And it also, the order cancellation logic is roped in. So if you cancel an order, you would lose the entitlement, which is what should happen. So the answer is yes. And the question is, what changes will be made to the portal for end users? We'll need to, will we need to retrain end users immediately? No changes are going to be made to the portal unless you do them. So if you create forms, they'll appear. If you create file folders or reports, they'll appear. The exception is some of the modules that we beefed up, like subscriptions. You'll notice now that subscriptions, let's go ahead and close this. Looks like the web widgets is the coolest thing, and the documents is a close second. So we'll close this poll. The web widget, the subscriptions module, for example, for those of you who have that enabled, now we've got the ability to manage and subscribe online. So that's pretty much the only example of something where we've added it, and if you don't have subscriptions enabled, it won't show up. By and large, we really tried to make it so that there were no changes to the end users unless you went in and affirmatively made them. There's a question about group registrations. Group registrations is a built-in feature of the product, and what you can do there, and that actually predates this release. What you can do there is you can allow essentially people to register contacts within your organization, and that setting is built into the product. Okay, just a couple more questions here. For chapters that don't have a full sequence, okay, so something was not clear. When you do these zip code mappings, you don't have to make it a full zip code. And in fact, oftentimes you will not do that, okay? The system will sort alphanumerically. So this is a perfectly legal zip code mapping. It's everything, but it's a perfectly legal mapping. So what you'll probably do is something like this, which is Cambridge, Massachusetts. So it does not have to be a full sequence. Okay, and we do not have surveys and voting at this time, though that is something we are considering for a future release. Let's take a couple more of your questions. Is there a process to export lists of organizations and the individuals attached to those organizations? Absolutely. All you would do is you literally would just run a individual query, and then you could just pull out the primary organization field. And we'll find that here. Pull out the primary organization field, and you'll be able to get a list of all the people and the people tied to the field, tied to the company. Okay, so next step is how do we early on when internally when we discussed the scope of this release and just how many things were in it. I mean, there are huge things we're not even discussing, like the exhibits module and what we've done there and how we revamped the subscriptions module. How do we train customers on it? Recognizing that different customers really are going to want and care about different things, and also recognizing that very often customers may not even know that there is now something available that can actually make their lives easier because they're working with a workaround. Okay, and so what we've done is we've created this idea that we want to use moving forward to help acclimate our customers to new releases called customer release assessments. And what we will do is we will go through all of your support tickets. We'll go through all of your emails if you sent them and look at your central desktop project, your implementation project. And we will make a recommendation and an assessment about what new functionality you could use and how you could use it best. Okay. So for instance, some of you early on, wanted to be able to store documents and tie them to individuals. Well, you do that now with the custom object as a workaround, but now it's a full-featured function and capability, and you want to do it in the built-in way because you get all access to all the global keyword search and so forth. That may not be readily evident, particularly if the people who are running the system now were not there when it was implemented. So to kind of solve the problem of that gap, what we're going to do is we're going to actually offer this service. It's going to be as affordable as possible because we really want people to do it, because we really want to be able to selectively train you on what is going to be important to you going forward. And since this release encompasses so many of your requests and so many things that you asked for, even if they were captured 4 or 5 months ago, we want to make you aware that it's now available. Okay, so we'll do an assessment. We'll make a formal recommendation. So, if we've got to move membership types over now because you stored prospects as members, part of that recommendation might be a database migration to move the records over into the right place in the system. It'll encompass configuration, custom development, data movement, anything that we think is going to be necessary for you to leverage the new features in a release. We'll have a conference call with you, and optionally we'll train you. So if, for instance, you decide, we want to use exhibits for our tables, which you can do, right? We have a table event, and exhibits is perfect. Instead of booths, we have tables, and it all works. We'll train you on it, right? Because not everybody needs to be trained on every module. A lot of people probably don't need to be trained on volunteers. So this is something that we're offering to our customers, and something that we're going to want to do to get everybody acclimated on what the product is going to do. Any questions on this? Okay. If you are interested in a customer release assessment, this is important. Go ahead and just email your support rep or submit a support ticket. That's how we're going to just keep track of it. And it's definitely first come, first serve. So we'll just schedule these things as they come in. But if this is something that you're interested in learning more about, please just shoot in a support ticket in or email your representative. Okay, so now the magic question everybody's been asking. Everybody's been asking this the entire event, and I haven't been ignoring you. Our target release date is midnight on May the 11th. Okay, it may be earlier, and if it is, we will definitely email and let you know that there'll be scheduled downtime. But we will be releasing this no later than May 11th. It's the culmination of about 4 months of work, and we're going to be really happy and really excited that it's out. But that's when you can expect to see it. And now just opening the floor up for general questions and answers. Okay, so the question is, for those who have not launched yet in MemberSuite or had training, will it be incorporated? So if you're on the line and you are in implementation, this will be included in your training. So there's no need to assess anything because you're not live. So it's not as though we're trying to go back and figure out how you can use something. It'll just be part of your training packet. Every time we do a release like this, we update our training module. We also update the configuration interview that you get. So for instance, we may ask questions when we introduce new functionality to know whether or not you track cost of goods sold and so forth. And also we implement sort of sales and related documentation. So if you haven't gone live, you don't need the customer release assessment, or if you haven't been trained, actually, you don't need it yet because that's just going to get updated into your training module. And is there a cost? There is a cost for the release assessment because it will take some time and some effort on our part. We're doing our best to make sure that is minimal, but there is a cost, and it just depends on the scope and the size of the organization and the implementation. So if it was a year-long implementation project and there's 1,000 tickets to go through, that's going to be different than if the implementation took 3 weeks and you submitted 5 tickets. So to be fair, we have to kind of price along that lines, but the cost, we'll try and keep that nominal. So there's a question of is there a new module for exhibitors' floor plans? So yes and no. The exhibits module has basically been completely rewritten, and we haven't really talked about this very much, but it's been completely rewritten, and essentially what it does is let you create and manage booths and shows, and lets exhibitors buy booths in the portal. Now, we don't have a visual selection, so there is no visual. We're not going to replace ExpoCAD and A to Z, though we certainly can integrate with them if you want to present it visually. But when you create a show, you do have the ability to upload the show floor plan as a document and then show that. So the baseline functionality will let somebody select a booth number, and they can click on the show floor plan, which is a PDF or an image, to be able to see what is available and what numbers are possible. And we also we revamp priority points and assignments and rankings and so forth. So this is actually, if you have a question about exhibitors, a lot of you do not do this, but if you do have a question about exhibitors, just let Joey Simpson know or your sales rep know. We can do a separate presentation, because that's a whole presentation unto itself. We've got this whole idea of registration windows with different kinds of registration and priority points, and there's a lot there. So definitely do that. We're going to be blogging, so there's a question about where can you get a list of all the new updated features. If you go on our website, there's a blog entry about the features, and we're also going to be releasing release notes, which is basically sort of a non-marketing kind of just a list of all of it right out from our bug tracking database of everything that's in the release. So look for that over the next couple of days. Okay. And would the forms module be good to set up a conference evaluation? So probably, you can change the layout. You can put as many fields on there as you want. We're definitely not a survey. We do not have a surveys module at this time, so there may be survey-related things you want to do that it might not do, but just being able to create an evaluation and be able to take it. It shouldn't have a problem. Okay. We do have a report writer similar to the Crystal reports. We use SQL Server reports for our reporting, but we'll do the reports as a professional service. However, we have a very powerful query writer, and that's what you've seen here, and that's the ability to choose any field. Okay, you can drill down into fields, so I can drill down to last order and get the order fields, and I can sort and display whatever fields I like. So in this case, it's showing everybody whose last order was tied to a batch with a total, that was greater than something. So there's a lot of flexibility in writing these queries, and it's English, so you don't have to know SQL to be able to do it, but it will generate the SQL for you. You can then add the output here, change the sort, limit the number of results. So this should actually really meet pretty much all of your reporting needs, and if it doesn't, then we've got the ability to write something like a Crystal report. It's just SQL Server report services. All right. Well, that really concludes the webinar. Some of you have asked questions. If I haven't answered it, it's just because it may be specific to you or your customization. Please feel free to shoot that question out to me or to Joey, to your support rep, and we will definitely get you a more detailed answer. I just wasn't being rude. I just wanted to make sure that we were maximizing the use of the time. We're going to post this webinar for download. We should be blogging about this over the next 24 hours so that you can actually go and show this to your peers. We are super, super, super excited about the release and what we're doing. And, we're super excited about summer 2012. Our focus now internally as a company is going to be on making sure our documentation, our training, knowledge base, our online customer community is tight. Because that's where we think we need the most work right now, and that's where you've told us that you want to see us improve, and that's what we're really going to be focused on. And the goal is for summer 2012 release to be able to put up an online community, to be able to give you the chance to collaborate on best practices. How do I use this? How do I use this system? How do other people use the system to solve common problems? And that's something that is going to be a really big growth area for us, and we're really excited about being able to do it. We're also excited about some of the other things we want to do. Social networking, mobile computing, surveys, voting, discussion boards. There's a ton of different things that are out there that we're ready to tackle. And because you've chosen us and because we're software as a service, we can do that for you. And we're really happy to be able to bring this to you at no cost. There's no upgrade fee. There's no maintenance fee. This comes with your subscription. We're constantly innovating, not really satisfied to just stay where we are. So thank you all for attending the webinar. Thank you all for being customers, and you will definitely hear from me via blog in the next few days. Have a great weekend.